listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Real stories and real encounters told by real researchers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Squatch Talks Podcast, and we are here tonight with a very special guest. We have with us Todd Prescott from Ontario, Canada, joining us tonight. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Great pleasure, and it's one I've looked forward to, of course. I've talked about you endlessly throughout our 30 videos that we've put up already. So
you find your way into almost every one of them, I'm sure.
Well, I just so you know, the check's in the mail. It's Canadian funds, unfortunately. But I'm sure you could hit a Tim Hortons on the border and get a nice cappuccino or something.
Sounds good. Hey, speaking of cappuccino, we got to plug our friends, Black Rifle Coffee. Ooh. All right. Even if they're not sending us any checks or free product at this point, we still like them, right, Nathan?
Yeah, they are pretty good. Definitely make it easy to stay up all night squatching.
That's for sure. Hey, I got some in the fridge ready to go for our expedition in a couple of weeks.
Okay, good.
I got you some mocha. I know you like the mocha. But no, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent there, but Todd is a mentor of mine, so I can't speak highly enough of the amount of education that I got when I went up to the Pennsylvania Northwest back in the day with Todd and had, I think a bit of activity.
We did.
Did you say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We had some activity. There were some funny things that happened on that expedition for sure. It was great times, great memories, and all I know is I can't say what it was.
Yeah.
All I can say is that there seemed to have been a time lapse somehow, because if I didn't realize I was asleep and she didn't realize she was asleep, there's got to be some time lapse there somehow.
And Nathan and I have experienced that, right, Nathan?
Time
variance.
Yeah. You didn't happen to notice how long a time it was, did you?
I tried to figure that out, but I wasn't aware of exactly what time. I didn't notice the time because I was more concerned about my partner, my then partner. Why are you sleeping when you're so concerned about being in the woods? What's going on? It was very confusing for me, and I was just trying to process that and trying to wake her up, thinking something's not right here.
Yeah, that's something else that I've heard reported too, that there's confusion along with it, that you're just not sure exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump to any conclusions to say that it was a Sasquatch, because I don't think that's the way we should approach this. It's just there seems to be, as someone said, a lot of unanswered happenings, experiences that coincide with Sasquatch activity.
That's something I'd always been, something we tried to do, is either differentiate and say, no, it's definitely something paranormal, or it's not Sasquatch related, or maybe, hey, Sasquatch does have these abilities.
It's hard to say, it's hard to say. The whole idea of an interdimensional Sasquatch, it goes against what we widely consider to be the best evidence of Sasquatch, which is the Patterson-Gimlin film. If Sasquatch can materialize at will, what the heck was Patty doing walking across that creek bed?
Exactly.
Leaving footprints.
Yeah, and the vast majority of sightings, there is no disappearing Sasquatch.
No.
It's acting as if it's flesh and blood. And if Sasquatch can make themselves invisible, why are they raiding chicken coops? Right. Why are they going through dumpsters? Why would they need to do that?
I had a report on one that tripped a light carrying a goat over a fence and walking away. If they, like you said, if they can dematerialize or have portals, they wouldn't need to trip motion sensors. And
that then brings up the one of your recent videos that you posted on your channel, Sasquatch Archives, right? The Sasquatch Archives. I want to make sure we'll have a link, of course, on our description for people to tune in.
Got the merch here.
It's a little dark. I couldn't see. But yeah, Todd actually has some nice merch.
There you go.
Looks great.
Shirt.
Shirts.
Backpack. I got everything.
But the recent video that I watched from your channel
had a individual whom shall remain nameless, but using the patty film, but a very poor quality, and describing all these faces they were seeing.
You can name him. He's long deceased. Eric Beckjord. Yeah. John Eric Beckjord.
Eric Beckjord, yes. And I had to look up how to say Eric Beckjord. Because, being, I guess, Norwegian or Scandinavian, I figured it would have been Beckjord. But
yeah, apparently it's Beckjord.
Yeah. And that was a neat clip that you had subsequently with him on the Tonight Show with David Letterman. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah, he was quite a character, but yeah, I get where you're going with this. He saw things that just he suffered from pareidolia. He really did.
Pareidolia, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, really did, and a bit delusional, a little bit crazy, but ultra intelligent. And this is the thing: you've got people in the world who you would
highly intelligent,
yeah. Like he had, I think, 2 degrees, and well spoken, well written. But he just had these ideas, and he would see things that just don't make sense. Not only that, but only he sees it.
Right.
And he doesn't understand why. How can you not see that there's an alien head on the Sasquatch? Well, there might be when you're showing a blurry copy,
right?
And you're seeing, like people, they see Jesus in a grilled cheese. Yeah, it's there if you want it to be there.
Right. And he was not only seeing it enlarged, right, which pixelates it, but also he adjusted the contrast, so he heightened the brightness.
Yeah.
And you could see an alien baby, peering out over if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a guy that I had on my BC expedition who was from, Washington State. He also had some strange ideas, and I humored him. I thought I was nice about it. But I mean, obviously you're going to get some high strangeness at times, right? That's something we have accepted. I'm still the flesh and blood guy, the Renee of the bunch, but we try to differentiate, as Nathan was saying. But going back before I forget, going back to this tale you were telling us about the being pressed down on the tent in BC. The night you and I were walking through the forestry road, you also told me a tale about a woman who was sitting in her vehicle, I think, right? And Matt Moneymaker was on that expedition, and she was a either law enforcement or a park ranger, I forget her title, but she was sitting in a vehicle and she had one nearby. Wasn't that you who told me that story?
If it was, I honestly don't remember that story. It's not ringing a bell.
Okay, well then forgive me, but that particular incident occurred at the location where we had our last PA expedition with Nathan.
So
at the reservoir.
Similar circumstances?
At the reservoir is where this event took place years prior. Okay. So we did have one team on, I think it was Friday night, Nathan, right? I think that had gone to that location. Terry was leader of that.
Yeah, Terry and Brian were there. I don't remember exactly.
I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday, but Saturday night, of course, that's when I recorded those howls that we got unsolicited. I mean, so like we've had some great success, I have to say, over our last 5-6 expeditions where there's been people who have gotten activity, you know what I mean? And it just so happens that on a few of the occasions, it was my team who wound up having it. A couple of thermal sightings, a couple of visuals, a couple of audio vocalizations, that kind of thing, which is just great because like Brian always says, it doesn't have to happen to everybody, but even if a couple of people experience something, it gets everybody
pumped up,
geared up, you know what I mean? So, but I thought it was a story you had told me while we were hiking, but you told me so many stories that night.
Well, why don't you tell the story from start to finish, and if it jogs my memory, it will. But right now, it's not ringing a bell at all.
It might not have been you. I mean, it could have been somebody else. But this woman was sitting in her vehicle alone. Okay, she was a solo party at that point.
Yeah, I think you're
remember this
you're
story,
smashing
right?
too many together, because the only person I remember you telling that story is me.
Okay.
I told
you?
No, I told you that story.
Oh, ha.
Yeah.
Well, then there you go. I knew one of you told me.
Yeah.
So
50-50 chance.
told me the story about this woman And that was on the expedition that year.
Yeah.
And it was probably 2006 or 7, I think, right? It was
Probably.
a while ago. Yeah.
Probably.
And she actually was having a creature outside of her vehicle, and it was making strange sounds, right?
Mhm.
You want to tell it, Nathan, since you told me?
I'd rather listen to his stories.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, you know,
Obviously, it wasn't your story, Todd.
No, it wasn't my story.
well, you know, you've piqued my interest. I haven't heard this story, so if you don't mind, Nathan.
It was approaching the car. It was making all kinds of noises. She was getting actually afraid. She had the windows rolled up. She didn't know what to do. And being law enforcement, I think it's recorded. I think it's on the BFRO site. You can actually listen to it.
It is.
But but nobody could take pictures of the stupid thing, you know. But it was right there, and he was walking towards her the whole time, making all kinds of noise. Nobody saw it.
And she's law enforcement, so she has, good observation skills and right. And she was terrified.
Yeah, absolutely terrified.
So it was making sounds. She could hear it, and it sounded like it was walking towards her, but she couldn't see anything.
Oh,
And
she could
breaking
see
brush,
it, but
and she could see it.
nobody could get a picture. Nobody else could say this. Nobody could see what she was seeing coming to her. Nobody else was around, and nobody could get a picture of it.
Oh, okay. So, I thought maybe you were saying that it was one of these invisible Sasquatches.
No. She was on. Okay. They were on the radios. They were,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
100 yards apart or so.
And so I guess the moral of the story is this is a law enforcement officer who's taking an oath and testimony holds up in court, and here she is saying, I saw, and this has happened to many police officers.
Oh yeah.
Way more than who will admit it. And
for sure.
There's a few historically significant ones to do with police officers, and that's the thing. When you really look at the history of the subject and you look at some of the so credible witnesses, you really have to ask yourself, what's going on here? Is it just misidentifications? Well, if that's the case, then people shouldn't be out hunting animals if they can't identify what the animal is. But we know for a fact that there are people out there who, like, for instance, years ago I took a report. She won't let me use her name, but she's basically one of the most recognized bird specialists in the world. I think they're ornithologists, is what they're called.
Correct.
Right. And so her livelihood depends on her eyesight and her observation skills. And she told me flat out, I know what I saw. My husband saw it with me. It was unquestionably a Sasquatch. And I watched it for, a minute or so. It was not a person in an ape suit. I saw the muscles flexing. I saw it moving. I saw the fur blowing in the wind. I saw its breath. And when you hear people like that, witnesses like that, tell you a story about what they saw, it really rings true when they have those credentials behind them. And she had nothing to gain and everything to lose.
Right.
She trusted me not to go public with her name. I could have, and it would have ruined her career. And I think with law enforcement, they're reluctant to come forward because, again, they testify in court. And if they're saying that they saw a 9-foot hairy creature, then
it could result in them actually getting, mental health.
Diagnosis, right? Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And so the few that have come forth, bless them, because it certainly adds credence. It lends credence to what we're studying. It's not just people misidentifying. It's not just people running around in ape suits. You're foolish to be running around in October during hunting season with an ape suit. Yes, people have done it, but are there that many stupid people to do it? And
I don't think so anymore.
and the person doing it, let's say that they do it, and you have an ornithologist cite them. I think the ornithologist would know a Philip Morris monkey suit to a real flesh and blood animate creature. So I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. But there's people who they're stuck in that box, and they just can't fathom that there could be such a creature that has gone unrecognized officially for so many years. And I get it. Where's the evidence? Where's the body? What's going on? Now, I wanted to touch on, because we were talking about interdimensional Sasquatch. Someone
Please
said,
do.
someone said years ago, and it really made me think about this. It was one of Eric Altman's first conferences, if not his first. And I have the DVD over there, but I'm not going to get up and get it. But I think it was called the East Coast Bigfoot Conference or something like that. And it goes way back. And he had one of his guests there was, I can't remember his name, but he was like kind of like a UFO guy, I think.
Stan Gordon?
No, wasn't Dan Gordon. I want to say McGrath. Again, okay. I could go look it up, but he didn't really go on to do much, and I don't think he's that recognized of a name. But he was doing something prominent at the time that got him to be a guest at the conference. Anyways, he said his explanation for the disappearing Bigfoot was we have ghosts in human form. People claim to see ghosts, and it's there, and then it's gone. People even said about their pets, dogs and cats. It died 3 weeks ago, but I saw it. It jumped up on my bed. I felt it after it passed away, and it basically said goodbye, and that's the last I saw of it.
Right.
You know, we've all had these dreams where a deceased relative has come to say goodbye or let you know you're okay. I saw what I believe was a ghost of my father many years back when he was seemingly on his deathbed, and I saw him walk into the room, and he just looked at me, and I went, "What?" Because I knew he was in another room sleeping, and so I thought, okay, he just passed over, and he's saying goodbye. So I raced into the other room, and there he is on the couch, and I grabbed his wrist, and there was no pulse. And I went, okay, he's gone. That's it. He's gone. He came to say goodbye, like you hear people say right before they pass. He came to say goodbye, and I put my head down on his chest, and all of a sudden he went, and he came back too. But I know I saw this guy in a ghost form, my father, walk into the room. He opened the door because I heard the door open, and I looked at him. I thought, what's wrong? I said, Dad, are you okay? But he never got up. He was fast asleep when I went out to see him in the next room. But anyways, this guy really, he thought, well, can't Sasquatch be ghosts as well? If you believe in ghosts, then that would explain the disappearing Sasquatch.
Wow.
It could.
And I went, that makes sense if you believe in ghosts, or if you're of the mind that ghosts exist, then why couldn't there be a ghost Sasquatch?
That's the first time I've ever heard that theory presented. And you know what? I can relate to that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, because we've been recently delving into some of the paranormal stuff with Nathan's brother-in-law, who has some of the gear, the REM pod, right?
REM pod.
And the EVPs and stuff. So we've been incorporating a little bit of that. We did it out in the Pine Barrens a few months ago. And so if you do believe that spirits pass on or that energy continues, right? Why would, because me personally, I believe that this is a relic hominid when I refer to Bigfoot.
Yeah, as I do.
Right. And so obviously they have a lifespan, and when they pass on, potentially they could be still present or earthbound, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, the way you just presented it.
And I mean, without question, there is high strangeness, as some call it, that accompanies Sasquatch research. Mm-hmm. We've all experienced these weird things, like I said, how I was seemingly knocked unconscious.
Yep.
There's been other things where, I had a bluff charge, but I couldn't see what charged me twice, even though I had a thermal. Many things that I can't explain. I can't say it was Sasquatch, but I can just say it was strange and doesn't make sense to me. But something we have to bear in mind too is there are people in the world who are colorblind. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, I had 20/20 vision. I'm sure you guys probably did too. And now imagine if someone born colorblind doesn't realize they're colorblind. So they just don't see color. They see everything in monotone. Mm-hmm. Or not monotone. Everything in what's it called? Black and white, mono. I can't think of the word. Eric, do you know?
I can't either.
Monochromatic.
Right, yeah, monochromatic. They see everything in monochromatic. So if you said to them, that light is red, they're going to say, no, it's not. It's a dark gray, because that's how they would see it. And they will argue till the cows come home. That is dark gray. But the people with 20/20 vision who aren't colorblind will say, no, that's red. And the one below, that's yellow. And the one below, that's green. So they're going to see a darker gray, a lighter gray, and then another darker gray. And that's how they see it. Now, that's how they perceive it. That's
Right.
the only way they can see it. And I think the same is true with Sasquatch research. People will see faces on the back of Patty. People will they'll take photos and see something in there that no one else sees except for a few people. So who's right and who's wrong? Well, the person who has 20/20 vision, who's not colorblind, is the person who's right. The person who's colorblind and maybe doesn't have 20/20 vision, they think they're right, but they're not. And that's something I think that needs to be factored in with Sasquatch research, because there's a lot of people who are colorblind.
Wow.
And they don't know it. And it's subjective, but
Mhm.
come on, when you've taken 372 pictures of Sasquatch, yet when I look at those 372 pictures of Sasquatch, I don't clearly see anything, yet you do, something's not right. And that taints the study, unfortunately. And I think that a lot of the paranormal attributes are because of these people who are colorblind, let's say, a tad delusional. There may be some mental health issues here too. I've always maintained that I want to solve one mystery before piling on another one. But I will say unequivocally that I have had weird things happen during Sasquatch research, but I can't say with any authority or any certainty what that was and if it truly related to Sasquatch activity.
Right.
I've seen the eye glow
Mhm.
with two other people. I've seen it change color. To me, it looked like eyes, and it looked like the eyes were controlling the intensity and the colors, which changed from white to yellow to amber to orange. But I don't know if they were eyes that I saw, and I don't know what was on the other side of those eyes.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, one thing you got to think of is people have been dying for a long time. We've only had residences for a short amount of time.
Mhm.
So when they died before, they were outside. So there's
Mhm.
no reason, the American Indians and everybody else, there's a lot of spirits that are out in the middle of nowhere that aren't
Yep.
necessarily what everybody thinks of as a ghost, because it should be creeping around a hallway, not out in the middle of the woods. But it could very well be, if that's the kind of thing that if that exists, that's what it could be. The eyes could be that. A lot of times you're seeing a black figure move. It looks like a shadow. Maybe it was a ghost, maybe it wasn't a Bigfoot.
And there's
You
the
know.
whole phantom animal
Yeah.
genre. I can't remember now. I'd have to go and look at my library. I think Lauren Coleman had something to do with one of the books. Maybe it was Jerome. What's his name? Jerome. If Lauren's watching this, he's gonna, God, you should know this guy's name. I know his first name's Jerome. I think he was the author, and he wrote a book called Phantom Animals, and it talked about people seeing animals that should not be there, like an African lion in Ohio.
Yeah.
And no zoo reporting one missing. Jerome Clark. I think he may be the author, but I could be mistaken. But there is a book called Phantom Animals. And I remember they talked about kangaroos appearing in Ontario, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York State. And there's a fairly well-known photograph of one taken in Wisconsin on the outskirts of one of the state parks. And it's from 1977. And now what's a kangaroo-like creature doing there?
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is when the pioneers came over, they talked about something called a jackalope. You guys have heard of the jackalope?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and when you see, it's interesting when you see an artist's rendition of a jackalope, it looks like a bunny rabbit with antlers,
Yeah.
right? And I thought to myself, whenever you have these legends or these myths, there's something based in truth. And it may be distorted over the years. And I started to think, now the pioneers came over in general from England and the UK in general, right? And Spain and stuff, and France. They had never seen a kangaroo because they hadn't been to Australia yet, or at least not many of them would have been to Australia. And if you were to see a kangaroo and you'd never seen one, but you'd seen a lot of deer and you'd seen bunny rabbits and coyotes and stuff, how would you describe that kangaroo? Okay, so it hops and it's tanned like a deer. So I wonder about these phantom kangaroos, because there's been so many reports, including a couple of police officers cornering one in the suburbs of Chicago back in the 70s too. I wonder, I think Lauren Coleman calls them devil monkeys, and he talks about them in one of his books. There's been so many reports of these creatures. And I saw what I can only describe as a kangaroo back in 93, I'd say. I was with my then girlfriend and her best friend. I was driving my girlfriend's Jeep. My girlfriend was in the front seat and her friend was in the back seat. I was coming home from a gig playing drums, so the drums were in the very back. And we came over a hill. Now, we were taking a back road. There's a lot of woods in Ontario, like there's New Jersey and New York State and Pennsylvania. And so I'm careful about deer. You see the eyes, you know, and you slow down. So of course I come up a hill and I see eyes. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to slow down. Might be a deer. I don't want it to jump out and destroy the Jeep. Slow down, and it's not moving, and it looks like it's sitting on the side of the road. And we get up to the top of the hill, and I literally stop the car, and I'm right beside this thing, and it's a kangaroo. There's no doubt in my mind it's a kangaroo. And I said to my then girlfriend, "Is that a kangaroo?" She goes, "Yep." And I go, "Wow." But it looked like a deer at first because, you know, it has the snout and has the tan skin or tan hair. And I thought, okay, well, I guess there's a deer farm or a kangaroo farm out here. Well, there wasn't. So I don't know what the heck I saw. I have no idea. It looked like a kangaroo. I know a buddy of mine says he saw what he can only describe as a hyena walking through this field. And he's a longtime hunter, and he knows coyotes. He's killed hundreds of coyotes, seen wolves. He said this thing was a hyena. There's no doubt about it. He said, if I had my gun, I would have shot it, but I was driving on a road and I stopped. I couldn't believe it. So there are these things, you know, these mysteries. Are these phantom animals? Are they just ghosts of animals? Are there, populations of these crypto animals walking through the woods? I don't know. But I tell you, the jackalope, I thought to myself, the way they depict it, it shows the rabbit with the deer antlers.
Yeah.
I think the pioneers, if there are these devil monkey kangaroos, you know, that are native to North America, whether they're still around or not, you would say that it was a deer that hopped.
Yeah.
Now over time, okay, deer that hops, then we have to put the antlers on there because that's the male.
Right. Make it a deer. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you know it's a deer. But it's interesting that it's depicted like a bunny rabbit with antlers. And when you think of a kangaroo, it's a deer that hops. In my view, at least.
Yeah, they got almost the same ears, like you said, a snout. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a long-standing history, and I'm getting into, you know, non-Bigfoot stuff, but it relates back to the phantom animals and the possibility of spirit ghost figures in Sasquatch sightings. It's possible, and maybe that's why it vanishes before your eyes.
Yeah, and the way I was coming home this afternoon from my excursion out into the Pine Barrens is a road that we were taking on a night that we went out. And I was with my research friend Art, and we were coming around this bend in the road, and both of us thought we saw what looked like a sloth laying on the edge of the road. Wow. And he was in a hurry to get home. He'll be back home at a certain time. So I didn't turn around to go back and check it out. Now, of course, I kicked myself for not doing so, you know.
Right.
But we both thought we saw a sloth, and Heather was in the back seat, so she didn't see anything. Okay. But yeah, I came home that way today, and I always think about it every time I go around this bend in that road, and it's near an area where activity's been, you know, in the past. So
that's amazing you mentioned that, because several years back, a report came into the BFRO, and it was taken by Paul Matea from New York.
Yep.
And I don't have permission to share the photos. There were 2 trail cam photos taken, and one of them clearly shows what can only be described as a sloth-like creature. Now, what's interesting though is it's just 2 shots or 2 stills from this trail cam. I don't think it took video; it just took photos. And you can see that there's in the first one or the second one, I can't remember the order, but anyways, you see this thing. It's reaching up, like it's climbing up to go up a tree, almost like it's going to jump up into a tree. And you can see its leg is up, its arm is up. There's all this hair hanging off its arm. You can't see its face, but you can tell that it's very sloth-like, but it's much larger than a sloth. And that's just based on the tree, what I perceive as the the diameter of the tree and whatnot. But then the next still from or the next photo really, it's not there, and it's behind like a pile of debris, almost like a leaf pile, almost kind of look like one of those wood rat nest, pile of debris. But I don't have permission to share this photo, but I'll tell you something, it's freaky. And it looks like a sloth, and I don't know what it is, but what's interesting is I'm trying to remember the time frame. It if I remember correctly, it's fairly quickly how it got either to the tree or back to, again, I don't remember the order, because there's only two frames or two pictures, and one is about to climb up the tree like doing this, and the other one is it's behind. You can see it's behind this debris. And I don't remember the order, but it happened all really fast.
Wow.
So it wasn't moving like a sloth.
Well, and you mentioned this book, of course, that you have behind you, or the DVD, whatever. Obviously, for our viewers that are not listening on the podcasting platforms, Todd has an extensive collection of archival material, okay, that either has been gifted to him or purchased throughout the years. I mean, and I've said this before, it's by far the most extensive collection. I mean, you have things from John Green and other individuals, of course. And of course, Lawrence would, or Lauren, I should say, Lauren would be beside himself that you were reminiscent in remembering. I think it was Daniel Cohen. Isn't that who?
Yeah, Daniel Cohen. Yeah,
Daniel Cohen. That's who wrote The Phantom, right?
Yeah, you Googled it, didn't you, cheater?
I did, of course. Like any good host should.
Yeah.
But look at this. I mean,
Yeah.
You believe the amount of
it goes on
collection
and on.
And this is just one room. This is one floor.
Yeah, well, this is the main room, to be honest.
I know.
I do have I have Grover Krantz's physical anthropology book collection downstairs. I have all my Fate magazines and some duplicate in my second kitchen, because I don't know where else to put it. But this is, I
don't see the copy of Weird New Jersey though that I sent you.
Well, actually, if you want to peruse the magazines over there, it's definitely there. 100%. Yep. And I appreciate you sending that to me.
No problem.
It's in my collection, and I scanned it. And if it hasn't made my magazine video, it will make the next one.
I'm just teasing. I just wanted to bring that out to let everybody who's watching on YouTube, check out Todd's collection is by far, I think, the best out of anybody.
It's probably one of the largest in the world. I don't think it is the largest in the world. It may be if I factor in all the digital stuff I have, because all of John Green stuff is digitalized.
Right.
It's not hard copies, because that was left with the family and currently sits in a museum in British Columbia. But I have thousands.
As it should.
Yeah, exactly. Thousands of scans from his collection. I do have the physical collection of a guy named John Furman that few people know, but he was in touch with everybody. He just preferred to fly under the radar, but he did a lot of great work, did some field work as well. But he was more of a letter writer, archivist himself, and he passed away in the late 80s. His collection went to Grover Krantz. Krantz didn't know what to do with it, so he sent it to Green. Green said, I don't know what to do with this. I got my own collection. Green sent it to Murphy. Murphy, he cataloged it.
Larry Lund, right? Is who then?
Well, Larry Lund and Gene Robinson and Tom Cusino, if I'm saying his last name right, Cusino or Cusino. They've been wonderful. They've shared so much. Larry is the Sasquatch sleuth, and he also acquired some of Renee DeHinen's collection, and he's been very gracious. Basically, Gene Robinson made copies of a lot of Larry's stuff, and Gene, through Larry, has sent me hundreds of VHS tapes.
Hundreds. I remember the unboxing video. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's so much. And since then, he sent me over 1,500 podcasts dating back to the early 2000s. And a lot of it is labeled. So I can just type in John Green and it pulls up all the podcasts that he appeared on that were sent to me. So I literally, I've said this before, I could spend the rest of my life just transferring this stuff and posting it on YouTube.
So needless to say, Todd's channel, the Sasquatch Archives, will never run out of material.
Yeah, why don't you plug
won't.
what you do there for a little while?
It
Tell us
won't.
what you do.
Yeah. So the Sasquatch Archives is, pretty obviously an archive of Sasquatch materials, historically speaking. I felt it important when after I went to see John Green, I was writing a book about Bigfoot researchers. So I'd been in touch with John Green, knowing that he had a mountain of information. So I would call him up and call him or email him and say, John, can you tell me about so-and-so? I can't find any information, but his name's come up. Do you know if he's still living? Blah, blah, blah. And John would graciously answer. But after a while, I was pestering him. Clearly, I was pestering him. And so he said, listen, Todd, you got to stop asking me these questions. Just come see me. You're welcome to go through my files. And I can't thank him enough. May he rest in peace. I can't thank him enough because it opened up a whole new world for me. Prior to that, I was really just a field researcher. And, I spent my time out in the woods. But I was collecting some things at the time. And I had, a decent collection. But after visiting with John Green and seeing what he had amassed in letters, slides, negatives, photos, cassette interviews, you name it, castings, I went, wow, there's so much stuff. And I said to John, what's the plan with this stuff? And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, I would love to scan it because it needs to be saved. It needs to be archived. He said, well, and I quote, he said, well, I don't really see the value in this, and I don't think anyone else will see the value in it, so I'll probably just throw it in the garbage. Wow. And I went, whoa, hang on there, Nelly. I said, John, surely, you see the value in this. You've collected this stuff, and it was all meticulously filed. Alphabetically, he kept every letter pretty much that he wrote. And I mean, like because he was a newspaper guy, he had a copy of his letter that he sent to people. So you got to read both sides. So he kept the letter you sent him, and he kept his response, which is awesome. How many people do that? So it was just overwhelming. And when I got there, I just went, this is daunting. There's just so much. And I remember spending the first 8 hours, and I think I just went through one file, like the Peter Byrne file or the Grover Krantz file. And I'd only scratched the surface. And I said, John, I hope you'll consider allowing me to scan this stuff. And he really didn't see the value. But eventually, on my second visit, he said, I thought about what you said, and you're right. It should be saved because there are people like you who value it. So go to town, scan away. And so I just started scanning his stuff. And I spent a total of 16 and a half days, not just one visit, but 3 visits, 16 and a half days. Of course, I had to work and, pay for my flight there and accommodations. But eventually he let me stay in the same retirement community. They had a room that they rented out for $50 a night, which was awesome. And then he would invite me out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And he said, I'll pay for it. I said, no, John, let me pay for it. He said, no, I'm glad you're here. I got someone to keep me company. At that time, he'd already lost his wife, and he was nearing the end of his life, and he knew it. So for me, it was just all the stars aligned because many people had visited with Green over the years. And a few had taken photos of some of his collection. But certainly not to the extent that I was allotted. And again, I'm grateful for that. But because of that, I thought this stuff needs to be made public as much as I can. I considered putting up a website, realized that I had to read through everything. It's no good just sitting there. So I spent 3 years. I'm not exaggerating. I spent 3 full years every day without fail, at least 2 or 3 hours a night, and on the weekends double that, reading through every letter, summarizing the letter, because there's only, there's a lot of little chit chat, this and that, how's the wife doing, how's the kids doing, here's your dog died. I was only interested in the Bigfoot related stuff, so I summarized it. I cherry picked what I wanted to put in the summary, which makes sense to me, and I indexed everything. I would index Titmus, and I would spell out where his name was mentioned. And, Bob Titmus's name was mentioned 300 times, let's say. So it's indexed like you would see you pick up a book. It's great when there's an index because you go to the back and go, I want to see if there's anything written about Grover Krantz. And it says Krantz, page 228 to 229, and then 333. And you go those pages. I did that with all these letters. It was exhausting, but I loved every second of it.
Wow.
Loved every second of it. Would do it again in a heartbeat, because I did the same thing with the John Furman files. So I did that and realized that everything was scanned. I had to crop everything too. Don't forget, like, you scan something, it won't be cropped perfectly. You have to crop everything. So 3 solid years. And then I said, okay, now I've got it. What am I going to do with it? So I considered putting up a web page, but then I thought there's going to be a monthly fee. There's hacks, people hack in, they cause problems, this and that. So I said, maybe it's best I just do stuff on YouTube. So I put a few of John Green's stuff on there, some of his interviews. He had the Fred Beck interview by Roger Patterson. No one had heard that before, right? So that was the first thing I put up on my channel. The audio's not great, but it's history. And then there's so many things. There was eventually the Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson interview that was done like the moment after they showed their film at UBC back in 1967, October 26th. That had never been made public, the audio. The transcription had, but it had never been made public. So I'm sharing some of the John Green stuff. I'll be honest, a lot of people don't care about the letters. Only the historical nerds like myself care about the letters. And I know that because I put out a few what I thought were significant letters, and hardly anyone looked at them. They want the sensationalistic stuff. I saw a dead Bigfoot back in 1968, or Bigfoot disappeared, or I see an alien head on the back of Patty. They want that stuff, and I'm fine with that. I'll share a bit of both, because I've got the Eric Beck Jordan nonsense stuff. I've got the serious stuff from John Green and John Furman and everything that Larry's collected. I've got the joke comedies. I've got the commercials. It's endless. It's endless, but I love it.
And you have that one from like 1967 where those 2 girls apparently came across the remains, right?
Yes.
Skeletal remains of a Sasquatch. That was an interesting video.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. I mean, literally, you've got so much material at your disposal. And yeah, it's not going to appeal to everybody, right? Yeah. There's some things that may appeal more than others, but it's just great that you're bringing it to the public eye. So thank you.
I have to give thanks and props to those who have been gracious enough to provide me stuff. Of course, starting with John Green, because without him, I wouldn't be here talking about this stuff. John Furman, Chris Murphy, Larry Lund, Blake Mathis from Ohio has graciously given me a few things. Gene Robinson, of course, who worked with Larry, and Tom Casino, and probably forgetting a few people, but there's many. And yourself, Eric, for even something as little as a magazine. It's in the collection. It's significant. Every little bit.
I'm honored.
It needs to be recorded, kept, archived, because there will come a day. Well, we know. Look at history. There's so many questions about the Patterson Gimlin film. Where did they develop it?
Right.
Where? No one knows, because no one thought to keep track of that.
Right.
Of course, the people who believe it's a hoax, you can say, well, they don't want you to know because this and that. Okay, right. Well, fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion. You're wrong, but you're entitled to your opinion. But there's things that have just been lost over time because someone passed away and the family went, I want nothing to do with that. And they threw it out. And so we don't know. So I welcome anyone to submit anything, send it to me. Contact me through YouTube or Facebook. Send me, if you have something that you think is significant, send it to me. I'll give you all the credit in the world, put up on YouTube. I just hate to see the stuff fall by the wayside. Hate to see it disappear. I always maintain you have to know your history to navigate your future. You really do. And that's true of everything, because if you don't know the history of Sasquatch, how can you, like the research history, how can you research it properly now? And it's funny because I feel like I'm constantly correcting people. They'll say, well, this and that and that and this. I go, no, that's not how it went down. We have proof that this is how it went down. And I mean, that takes up a lot of time. And I'm getting to a point where I just go, let them believe what they want. But hopefully the Sasquatch Archives on YouTube will help people to learn what we know happened. There's a lot of, well, we're not sure, like the Patterson Gimlin film with the events leading up to it, the events leading out of it. We're not sure, and we'll never know because we're too far past, and those people involved have passed away. And Bob Gimlin distanced himself from that
Right.
event, right?
Mhm.
So he doesn't really even know himself some of the things that went on because he was just a bystander, really. You know,
Right.
he wasn't a researcher. He was just
Mhm.
Patterson's tag along, right?
Mhm.
At the time, he was just a very lucky man to have that happen to him.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the Sasquatch Archives is really just to save the history of Sasquatch research. Like I've said many times, there's no such thing as a Sasquatch Bigfoot expert except for a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Only
That's
the
for
Bigfoot
sure.
is the expert. And all these people saying, "Oh, I know this and I know that." You may think you do, but do you really know what a Sasquatch is thinking, what it's doing?
They know Squatch.
They
Yeah.
know Squatch about Squatch. Exactly. I like
Yep.
that. It's so true though, because so many people will say, "Well, I know it was walking on 2 feet because I heard it." You know what? I could show you a video of a deer sounding like a man walking or a Bigfoot walking.
Mhm.
And people, "Oh, I left out these shiny things and they were gone in the morning. It must have been Bigfoot." Oh,
Yeah.
really? Because I got a video of a crow swooping down and taking those shiny earrings that you left.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or, "Oh, peanut butter jar. Nothing can open a peanut butter jar. It must be something with the opposable thumb." No,
Like a
I can show you.
raccoon?
I can show you a video of a raccoon opening a peanut butter jar that was tightly sealed. So
Yeah.
that's Occam's razor. You have to exhaust.
Totally.
You have to exhaust everything, the ordinary, before you go to the extraordinary. You really
Right.
do.
And that's why I feel so fortunate that I was able to be mentored by you back in the early days of my process. You know what I mean? And so I've gone on to carry on your traditions in a lot of what I've done with newbies and people out in the field. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But that, what do we call it? That 6 degree of separation thing, right?
Yeah.
Just knowing, I mean, my hairs are standing up on my arm just thinking about you spending all that time with John Green.
Yeah.
And it's like that connection that, you know what I mean? Like I spent time with Todd Prescott. So that 6 degrees of separation of me with one of the four horsemen.
Yeah, you know, it's as Renee DeHinden would say, it boggles the mind. You know, it really does. It boggles my mind that it happened. It was supposed to happen. Truly, it was supposed to happen for me back in 1995, because that's when I lived in British Columbia, and I was touring around the province with a band. So I had all the time, all the daytime hours to go out and, you know, research, and I took full advantage of that because I knew that BC was a hotspot. But I ended up in Harrison Hot Springs, and I knew John lived there. And this is before everyone had a cell phone. You went to a payphone, and at the time you put in a quarter, and you look up who you wanted to call, and there was his name and number, and I called him, thinking I want to get together with this guy. And I've told this story before. The phone rang a couple of times. I heard a low, and it was clearly John's voice, and I hung up because I chickened out. I literally chickened out. I went, no. Yeah, I just had a moment going, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm bothering this old man. He's been pestered his whole life. Yet, fast forward to 2012, I started pestering him again because hindsight is 2020, and I regret it not following through with that.
And you grew a pair.
I grew up.
Yeah.
I was much younger back then. I was really intimidated. And I just didn't feel it was the right time. And it wasn't, because probably what would have happened was I would have visited with him, and then I would have never gone on the path I did with the archiving, because it would have been more of a personal relationship at that time. And sometimes when you get to that point where it's a very personal relationship, you don't feel comfortable at all asking for something like as imposing as, hey, not that I asked him, he offered, but you know, would he offer that same opportunity to me if I really knew him well? Probably not. I don't know, but I'm thinking everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And that happened that way for that reason.
It's funny you admit that, though, because the other day I've been trying to get a hold of Cameron Buckner, who has a channel that's pretty popular, Dixie Cryptid, podcast, or What If It's True podcast. And so, you know, he and I have been in communication, and the last time he was busy with work and stuff, so we didn't get to talk. So I reached out to him the other day, and the voicemail picked up, and I hung up. I didn't even leave a message.
There you go. Right.
You know what I mean? Same scenario.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So, you know, again, you know, you mentioned that I mentored you, Eric. I was mentored by others too. So it's, you know, it carries on through generations. And I learned a lot from other people that I went out with, as much as you learned from me and maybe more. So I was passing on information. Some of it, of course, is always your own. You make it your own, and you deduce things on your own. Nathan has probably a whole world of information that he's just figured out himself, and it works for him and would work for others. We all do that. It's all about sharing. And, it is a shame that the community is so divided. It's a real shame. We could benefit by all coming together. The problem being we can't all agree on what Sasquatch may be.
Right.
That's the problem right there. It's like religion.
Yeah.
And the skeptics say you guys it is a religion. You believe in something. Well, okay. I don't ever say I believe in Bigfoot. I say I'm of the mind that Bigfoot exists, because they throw it right back in your face. Well, you believe it's a religion. You're worshiping Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson. It's okay. It's a broken record. I get it. You don't believe in Bigfoot. I get that, but you believe that Bigfoot doesn't exist. So what's the difference? The difference is, and they'll say it. The difference is there's no bones. Yeah, okay, I get it. There's no bones. Let's get past that hurdle. What are people seeing? What are people experiencing? People of high repute. What is happening with them? Yeah. What were the natives talking about? The indigenous peoples all around the world. Is it just this fabricated boogeyman?
Mass hallucination?
Yeah, like people in China with the Yaren, all of a sudden they have the same creature that leaves the same length and shape of footprint as ones in, Okanagan Valley. Come on. I mean, that's a stretch to think, well, yeah, it's just people hoaxing, it's misidentifications, it's just, a psychological thing. It's the boogeyman, a syndrome. Really? Because we have a history of hominids. We have a fossil record of hominids. Why can't one have just eluded us? That's highly secretive, highly, what's the word I'm looking for? Intelligent and also skittish.
Yeah. Right.
They're careful. Like mountain lions are careful, right? Mountain lions, I've never seen a mountain lion, but I know I've been around them. I've never seen a wolf, but I've been around them.
Right.
So, I may have seen a Sasquatch, and I believe I've been around them. I'm of the mind I've been around them.
See, that's where we differ, because I know you've been doing this a long time, right? And I don't have as many years of experience of research as you have, right? But in my time doing this, I had my first sighting in British Columbia, right? And then I had a road crossing here in New Jersey the following year. So I've actually seen these creatures on two different, situations, occasions. Thank you. Nathan's usually the one helping me with the words I forget.
You've helped me out. I'm helping you out.
Thank you.
It's getting late.
So I'm just saying that, that's what I think sets us apart, is you've been doing this so long, but you have yet to actually see one. Am I right?
I have yet to see something I can conclusively say was a Sasquatch. I saw something that very well could have been one, but I didn't see enough of it to determine that. Right. And carry on.
Yeah.
Well, and I just, again, it is like Nathan said, I don't want to keep Todd all night, although we could talk forever, because he's got such a plethora of stories to share.
We have to do this again, but I have to go to bed.
I know you do, Nathan, and I'm sorry. But this is a thrill, of course, for us. And
this was great.
And thank you, Todd. But I just wanted to say, by night, Todd's a drummer, right, in a band, and you gig in Canada, eh?
Yep.
And by later at night, he's a Bigfoot researcher. But so I was going to say, before we let him go, I wanted him to tell us one of his favorite stories. Do you have time for that, Nathan, or should we?
We could leave it at that. Nathan's got to get up early. I have to respect that, and we'll keep everyone in suspense what that favorite story might be for the next time, and there will be next time.
I appreciate that.
Awesome.
So hey, I've had a great time.
Oh yeah, this was fun.
I hope the listeners and the viewers are going to enjoy it half as much as I did. But Todd, it's been a great pleasure to have you on to our show, and your show, of course. I'm going to continue to watch, so I hope you'll give us another view of one of the newer episodes. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you guys for asking me to come on, and I appreciate your time. And you got a good thing going on here. I know it's going to grow exponentially for sure.
Hey, we're having fun, And, you know, this is one of the things that we enjoy is talking to people like yourself that can share some of their experiences with us and our viewers. And hey, whether we grow or not, we're doing what
we're
love
having
to
a
do.
good time.
We're talking Sasquatch.
We're
That's
not
right.
doing anything illegal.
That's right. So real quick, just for everybody, you know, I'll have the link on our thing, and Todd does have some merch. He's wearing one of the hats he has on his site.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to have some merch coming up soon too, if I ever get off my butt. But we do have our partnership with Yeti Bars, so of course use STP10 if you're checking out on the YetiBars.net. All right, and that'll help us out, and also to help us grow our channel. Please share and like. And go over and check out the Sasquatch Archives and see some of Todd's material. So once again, Todd, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you again, gentlemen. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for squatching.
So how's it going for everything with the podcast? Are you getting in the groove?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I got 33 videos up since January.
That's impressive.
I'm not ashamed of that. I just broke rule number 1, had my volume on.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I was tending to my ducks. That's why I was late.
Getting them all in a row?
Yeah. Getting them all in the pond is what I was doing.
I told you, film everything with the ducks.
I know.
Everything.
I should have, because that would have been some hilarious
Horizontal.
bloopers right there.
You need to do that.
You know,
Definitely.
so I admire what you guys are doing. I hosted one in Ontario and said that's probably going to be the last one. It's just too much work. Yeah, but
Well,
it's always great for the participants, attendees to have something happen, right?
Oh, yeah. It is, but there's no way. You can't guarantee that's, you know.
I know. Oh, wow.
Instead of, well, I have my Black Rifle coffee, of course, but
Of course.
on the way back from the Pine Barrens today, I stopped at my friend Robin's hot dog stand, Hot Diggity Dog. Let's plug Robin. And she actually has a Bigfoot cutout.
Nice.
8-foot Bigfoot cutout behind her counter. Okay. I offered to buy it today, but
Of course.
she didn't agree to that. Oh, it's so good.
Is it cream soda?
It's a caramel apple cream soda. Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, looks delicious.
So I'm breaking rule number 2 as well.
Carbonated. Yeah. there you go.
Carbonated beverage. But it's worth it. I asked him also to, give us any critique. I don't know if you've watched any.
I watched the first half dozen.
Oh, God, not the first ones.
Yeah. And I did give you some feedback.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
And I've incorporated it.
Absolutely. Except for the dancing girls, you ignored that request.
I have not totally. Paw over here.
Yeah, I
He's the one
always
who
put the
keeps putting
kibosh to that
the
stuff.
kibosh on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch your ratings go sky high. Your subscribers go sky high. You add the dancing girls.
There you
No
go.
doubt. No doubt. And I've mentioned you a number of times, of course, in previous episodes, and
Almost too much.
almost to the fangirl,
Kidding. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. And all right, I'm just going to start.
The premise of the show is Eric talks about you.
Pretty much.
Well, we have a long history. We do. We spent a lot of time together,
Yeah.
and had some wonderful experiences together.
So some of the stories are great,
We could definitely touch on those and see if the story's changed over time. There were 14 of them surrounding us. Wait a second. Was it just a rock?
I'm out of here. Welcome back to Squatch Talks podcast. And I have Nathan tonight and a special guest, Brian. Cut. Sorry. All right, try it again. Sorry.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Squatch Talks podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and give us a like, and stay tuned for more exciting stories on Squatch Talks.